Preparing for this presentation, I looked very much at that preparing for our digital destiny theme, and I thought, well, what is our digital destiny? What direction are we actually going? And what I focused on was something called digital convergence. It's a sort of there are some quite clear examples of digital convergence, but there are also some more broader, less clear examples of digital convergence. But I think this phenomena is happening all over the world, and it's happening in Australia, where I'm from, it's happening in the US, and some of these things are going to happen here. And we're probably starting on a journey a lot later, but we're probably going to end up in the same position that every other part of the world is going to end up in when we have high-speed internet. So I'm just going to just give you a quick overview. These categorisations aren't probably, the best, but they're what I came up with. I think we have technical convergence. That's happening. We can kind of see that, and I'll go through what that is and what it's going to look like going forward. Content convergence. This is something that I don't think has happened really at all on Helena at all. And then this title, I don't think it's the best title, but sort of time convergence. It's when what we're doing in different parts of our lives all comes together. That's probably the best explanation of that. And then I'm going to focus on some challenges that arise from that and some opportunities. And if you think of something or you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, please do stop me. But, okay. So where are we now, technically? So now we have a home phone, we have a TV and a TV box to get TV. If we want to talk when we're out and about, we have a mobile phone also. We have a radio in a car, we might have a radio at home, and we have a computer. So we've got all these different things. And where I think we're going, and the rest of the world is already a lot further down this path, is we're going to a world where we have one internet-connected device. Or maybe two, but we basically have one internet-connected device. In Australia, I haven't had a landline since 2007. And none of my friends have a landline, or if they do, I don't know what the number is, I don't ever ring them. But, and people will be using their mobile phone to do work. They will be using their mobile phone as a computer. And I think we'll get to the content issue in the next slide, but I think this TV and TV box, that's probably just going to disappear. So we're going to a world where you just have a device that's connected to the internet, and what that device is, it becomes somewhat irrelevant. So some of these things that we have now are going to disappear. Okay. Now, the next one is what I'm calling content convergence. This is where we have all these different types of content that we can access. So we can get paid television, we can buy newspapers, rent a DVD, get a book, listen to the radio. These are all different ways we can get content, interact with the rest of the world. What we're going to probably, I think, is something a bit more like this. There's a really wide range of content from all over the world that's basically free. You can stream BBC, you can stream Deutsche Welle Journal, you can stream maybe some free movies, you can stream content that people who are interested in a particular topic put on the internet for free. And then, if you actually have a special interest, and it might be an interest that nobody else on St. Helena has, you can pay a small subscription and get really unique content. That's, it might be mountain biking, it might be fishing, it might be archaeology, it might be politics, whatever it is, you'll be able to go out to the rest of the world and get the content you want. And I think, and you might have to pay, but remember there are millions of people around the world also potentially paying. So the cost for you to access that content is likely to be very, very low. Then I think the next thing that's happening is we sort of have leisure time, we go to work. Most of us, hopefully, even if we're not formally students, we're learning. We go down to Jamestown on a Saturday morning and do some shopping, and we're talking to the chief minister in the street, or we're trying to, we're going into the post office to get something done. So we're engaging with the government or businesses, but we're all doing those things in different, we choose to go and do something for a period, and then we stop doing that, and then we have to go to work, and then we stop doing that, and we have to go to the post office to get something done there. I think where we're going is a world where leisure opportunities are everywhere all the time. So you can watch a movie anywhere. You can watch the news anywhere. You can ring your friends, video call your friends whenever you want. And that can be 6 a.m. in the morning. It can be while you're at work. Hopefully you're not working for SHG while you do that, but it can be at work. There's no limit to when you can engage in some of these leisure things that you can now do online. Everyone can shop whenever and wherever they want. So if you're waiting for a bus, you can get on the internet and buy a pair of shoes on the internet. You can buy a car part. You can subscribe to download a movie from the US or the UK. You can do that all the time, at any time of the day. So that's just constant. You can also work and learn whenever you want. You can decide that you're sick of work on a Friday and decide that you're going to do 6 hours on the beach at Rupert's on Saturday afternoon. And similarly with learning. You can decide that you're going to study on a Saturday night, or you're going to study at 6 a.m. in the morning. You're going to stream a lecture from overseas for your course. So the formality of being at work or being at school or being out with friends is probably going to break down a fair bit. And there's going to be an expectation that I think the government and also private businesses, but probably the government a bit more. And I didn't use SHG here. Well, I'm not talking necessarily just about SHG. I'm talking about politicians as individual people who get mail at the supermarket. I'm talking about, but I am also talking about the government in terms of the bureaucracy that people have to interact with. I think there's going to be an expectation that you can get something done online on a Sunday afternoon. Or if you hear something in the newspaper that sounds ridiculous, you can talk to a politician, whether it's sending a comment, sending a video, sending a voicemail, or something like that. You can actually contact those people all the time electronically. And I think we currently have a world where Mark's not very impressed by this, I don't think. But I think we have a world where, things open and close. And I think we're going to a world where everything's possibly on all the time. So I think this is the direction I think we're going. I think there are some challenges. So a quite island-specific question is, are we building the technology that people will need and use? So if we end up in a world where everybody just needs an internet-connected device, it raises questions about whether we need TV transmission antennas. It raises a question about whether we need radio broadcasting equipment. If we accept that we're going to a world where everybody just needs an internet-connected device, what kind of infrastructure do we need? But having said that, if we do end up in that world, are we going to leave people behind? In Australia, I'm thinking of my mother in particular, the elderly don't necessarily adopt technology as fast as young people. There are accessibility issues. So there is a tension between having the simplest network, the simplest infrastructure that just gets what most people want done, and ensuring that we don't leave anybody behind and we don't turn off a technology that people are still relying on. Also, when we go into a world where you can get any content from anywhere around the world, what happens to our saint content? What happens to the newspaper, love them or loathe them, the news that comes out every Thursday or Friday? What happens to the local radio stations when people can access everything in the world and they have to actually choose to listen to a saint provider of content and choose not to listen to any or engage with content from the rest of the world? There's also an issue, I think, where currently we have, not in an oppressive way, but we have a lot of control and visibility of the content that comes to this island. So we know what's in the newspaper, we know who printed it, the TV's regulated essentially. There's no obscene content on TV. We don't really have to worry about where our content comes from. I think in a world where anybody can access content anywhere around the world at any time, how we manage that is quite hard. I don't think you can regulate it, but maybe you have to educate people about how to engage with content, how to make sure that they're accessing content that's appropriate. I think, is our government and society ready to operate mostly online? When the expectation is that anything you interact with the government for can be done online, or almost everything, where if you wanted to, in the future, I suppose, if you wanted to participate in this seminar tonight, you would expect to probably be able to sit in your lounge room on St. Helena, or possibly sit overseas, and because you have an interest in this, interact with this forum. Are we ready to take our sort of public life and public space into the internet domain? And there are technical issues there, which I think we almost certainly haven't met, but I think there are cultural and social issues there, and the way we think about the internet and how we engage with people has to be revisited to deal with that. Are we ready for remote working? During COVID, I think that a lot of people loved remote working. A lot of people found it incredibly unproductive. Companies around the world, I think, have become frustrated with employees, saying they're working and they're on the beach. And how do we as a society, how do employers and employees deal with the idea that do we accept that there's going to be flexible working going forward? And if so, what are we going to put in place to make sure that works? And can we handle e-commerce both as consumers on the island and as vendors on the island, people on the island who want to sell to the rest of the world? Can we do that? Maybe we'll come back to that in a moment. I also think that, however, there are some opportunities. The internet will mean, very good internet will mean that St. Helena is closer to the rest of the world, effectively, than we've ever been before. Whilst we're physically still distant, the transport links aren't great. The difficulty in interacting with the rest of the world will be reduced hugely. Education will be hugely more accessible. People will be able to decide that they want to do a course in the UK on this, and they'll be able to stream the lectures, interact with classes, and participate in that course whilst being here. And that will be a huge change. It will probably give people choice, whereas at the moment I think even when things are delivered online, the choice is quite narrow. But you can probably look at any university in the world and say, if it's online, I can do that course, whereas now I think you're really struggling to do that. The opportunities, the work opportunities for people on the island will become global. You will be able to live on St. Helena and work in a law firm in London. You will be able to work as an accountant in South Africa. So that's a huge positive. And it basically puts us in a situation, or potentially puts us in a situation where we don't, in some of those professional services areas, all the disadvantages are gone, and then we really are just competing on the cost of labour. And I think, not that I want to, I don't want people's labour costs to stay low. If we can compete in international markets with our labour, our skills, that will push wages on the island high, because we should be able to offer skills that are in demand around the world. And St. Helena can be part of the global e-commerce industry, but there are some difficulties. And when I say we can be part, we can be part not just as people who are purchasing mostly probably services from overseas, or mostly goods and services from overseas. We can be people who export at least services and possibly goods, and if we access that e-commerce platform, that will potentially make that process a whole lot easier. So that's a big picture view of where I think we might be going.